Most people assume that avoidant men ghost because they don't care, that they feel nothing and move on untouched. But the truth is, they don't ghost and then skip into freedom. They ghost and descend into a silent psychological hell they can never confess to. Because to admit the truth would mean admitting how much you actually meant to them. Ghosting doesn't end their feelings, it buries them alive. And what's buried doesn't die, it festers. Avoidant men live with the contradiction between their actions and emotions, missing you while pretending they don't, justifying while grieving, silencing what they can't control. Their distance isn't peace, it's punishment. Relief and self-hatred. When an avoidant man ghosts, the first thing he feels is relief, the intoxicating lightness of escaping emotional pressure. But almost immediately, that relief curdles into self-disgust. He sees himself clearly, a man who runs from love, who hurts those who care, who confuses freedom with flight. Yet he can't speak about either feeling. Relief makes him sound heartless. Guilt makes him vulnerable. So he says nothing. And the silence becomes his self-punishment, a ritual of control over the chaos he fears inside. This cycle of relief and shame reinforces his avoidant identity. Caring feels dangerous, intimacy feels suffocating, love feels like failure. So he builds higher walls, never realizing he's trapping himself inside. Obsessive replaying. After disappearing, his mind becomes a courtroom. He replays your last conversations, searching for proof that ghosting you was justified. He twists memories to fit the narrative that you were too needy, too emotional, too much. Yet deep down, he knows he's lying to himself, because the truth is simpler and more terrifying. He left because he was scared. This obsessive mental replay can last months or years. It's how he keeps you psychologically close, through argument, through distortion, instead of through love. He becomes addicted to rewriting history because it's easier than facing his fear of connection. Phantom limb syndrome. Avoidant men feel your absence like a phantom limb, a missing part that still aches. They reach for their phone to text you, feel your memory in their daily routines, hear your laughter in silence, but they can't admit it. To acknowledge this pain would mean confessing how deeply you became part of them. So they live in quiet contradiction, maintaining distance while unconsciously clinging to symbols of you. They revisit places you went together, order the food you liked, scroll your social media in the dark. Years later, they'll still feel echoes of that connection, unable to name it, unable to let it go. Rage at their own needs. The next stage is rage, not at you, but at themselves for needing you, for feeling, for caring, for being human. To them, emotional dependency equals weakness. Your absence exposes how dependent they actually were, and that feels like betrayal of their self-image. So the rage turns inward. They punish themselves through detachment, through cynicism about love, through cruel jokes about people who need too much. It's self-hatred disguised as pride. Terror that you've moved on. Paradoxically, avoidant men are terrified that you'll heal. Ghosting was supposed to grant them control, to keep you waiting, emotionally tethered, while they stayed distant. But the moment they sense you've moved on, their control evaporates. Because deep down, they didn't want freedom. They wanted the illusion of freedom with your devotion still intact. That's why they check your social media, ask mutual friends about you, or hover near places you might be. They're not trying to reconnect. They're trying to confirm that they still matter. Shame and the inner shadow. Every avoidant man carries what Jung called the shadow, the buried part of himself he refuses to face. Ghosting forces that shadow to the surface. He knows he acted cowardly. He knows he avoided truth. But shame traps him in silence, because to confess it would mean tearing down the identity he's built. The strong, self-sufficient man who doesn't need anyone. This shame corrodes from within, convincing him he's too damaged to love. He becomes the architect of his own loneliness, grieving what could have been. Eventually, he begins to grieve, not just you, but the version of himself that could have loved you properly. He mourns the life he might have had if he'd chosen courage over comfort, vulnerability over control. This is the most haunting stage because he knows he destroyed the very thing that could have healed him. When you finally understand this, you stop mistaking his silence for indifference. It's not strength, it's suffering. It's proof that your love touched him deeper than he could handle. Avoidant men aren't addicted to distance because they enjoy it. They're addicted because closeness threatens to expose their shadow. They would rather live in exile than confront the terror of being truly seen. But here's the paradox. What they fear most is the very thing that could free them. Because love, when faced with courage, doesn't destroy the self. It transforms it. And while the avoidant man runs from that transformation, the man who is brave enough to stay becomes something infinitely more whole.